Do you have a job that clears $350 per week? At Matt Blatt Kia in Toms River and Egg Harbor Township, you're virtually approved. Plus, we're overloaded with trades, even one-owner trades, many with factory warranty, and they must go. To make room for new Kias arriving daily. Just because you don't see your new Kia on the lot doesn't mean you can't be driving it home tomorrow. So bring any trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. And don't forget, you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Offers with approved credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details. Expires
6/5/2022.
Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Sports is what we do.
Segura from a knee throws him out.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here on a Friday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, where last night you heard the Sixers, well, not put up a fight, in my opinion. You know, I was under the assumption, like most people were, the Sixers were to come out there and win at home and, you know, ride the emotional wave of the crowd, and none of it happened. So we'll get into that this hour. Plus, Phillies, big win last night. No Clayton Kershaw this weekend. He's supposed to pitch tonight for the Dodgers. He's got a joint inflammation he's dealing with. So he's on the injured list. So Phillies got Walker Buehler, who was supposed to pitch on Saturday tonight instead. So maybe they lucked out by getting a guy who's pitching on short rest. We'll find out. They found a way to win last night. We'll talk about more baseball coming up with Steve Buchanan from DraftKings tonight here on 97.3 ESPN FM. As always, you are welcome to join the conversation at 609-403-0973. Also, you can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea City. Here's what we're going to do here. I'm going to lay out what I saw in the game last night, and then I'm going to lay out what needs to happen moving forward. Because for a lot of people, I understand that complaining and, that kind of stuff is fun for some people, but I like to be about solutions as well. So here's how I'm looking at this team at this moment in time. So I'm watching the game last night, and you're only down by 1 at halftime. And my assumption is they would come out in the second half, they would make some adjustments, and it would still be a close game down the stretch. And it just felt like Embiid and Maxey came out of the locker room ready to go, and the rest of the team just never woke up. Yeah, they missed a lot of shots. That was part of it. Yeah, they didn't, play great defense. That was part of it. But they felt like they just got outworked. And you don't want to see that. And when Embiid says after the game that, we got to get tougher, we got to get, grind it out more. We need more guys like PJ Tucker. And knowing PJ Tucker is going to be a free agent this offseason, it really feels like this team just never had a chance. And I hate looking at it like that because that's a bit of a defeatist attitude. But you heard Doc Rivers at his press conference today say, when Joel Embiid had the thumb injury, was confirmed it was a torn ligament, we knew we were in trouble. You almost wonder if the team, everyone basically were like, well, look, we're not going to win a championship this year anyway, so we're just not going to give our best effort no matter what. I felt like as soon as Danny Green went down, that changed the dynamic of the team, because you saw that in the second half, Doc, that now famous or infamous, depending on who you ask, audio of him yelling at the team, saying, come on, guys, you got to give me all you got. It's do or die. And it was just like nobody responded to him. That was a bad look. It was a very bad look for a Sixers team that, let's be realistic, They've been to the postseason now 5 consecutive years. They haven't gotten any further than the second round. If you're the Sacramento Kings, you're happy. If you're Philadelphia, you're not happy. I saw a team last night that just didn't have the mental fortitude. They didn't have the mental toughness. They didn't have the just pure desire that Miami did. Miami wanted it more. They worked for it harder. They pushed harder. I mean, when PJ Tucker committed that foul, when he pushed Embiid in the back for the rebound, they called, loose ball foul on PJ Tucker. There was nobody on the Sixers that got in PJ Tucker's face trying to fight him. Okay? All you had was Embiid laying on the ground just being like, well, this stinks. See, if you were still fighting, if you were still grinding, if you were, in the right headspace, there should have been 2-3 guys in PJ Tucker's face saying it's unacceptable. You go to every NBA series in the playoffs, and you saw, when Gary Payton went down, and when Draymond Green went down, and when, different players have gone down in different series, the situation in the Boston series, right? Guys get juiced. They get emotional. You didn't see that last night. And it's like they were drained before the game ever ended. It was like someone that basically, drained the life force from all of them and basically just gave it to the Monstars or something. I think that moving forward, there has to be a couple things that have to change. Now, to the people who are angry at Doc Rivers, I think you're wrong. Not because I personally think Doc Rivers is a great coach. You're wrong because you're vacating responsibility from the players. We live in a world where the easiest thing to do is say, fire the coach. It's more difficult to hold the players responsible because that requires a certain level of discernment and analysis that I think some people are just too lazy to do. Look, you watched the game and you saw they got out-rebounded. That's not Doc's fault. You watched the game, you saw they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a shot. That's not Doc's fault. You saw the game, and outside of Embiid and Maxey, it felt like nobody in the second half was actually trying to score. That's not Doc's fault. Doc Rivers' job is to put the best team on the floor capable of winning and putting him in a position to be successful. Well, I felt like they could have been successful, but between Harden just not shooting, he had 2 shots the entire second half. That's unacceptable. This is a Sixers team that has to be retooled. James Harden, in the second half of this series, in the 6 games, has 11 turnovers and 9 shots made. He has 32 points on 32 attempts in the series in the second half. He was 0 for 2 last night. For whatever reason, Harden didn't have any fuel left in the tank. Now, if it's because he's injured, I don't know. If it's because he's not in prime condition physically, I don't know. But someone's got to sit down with Harden and say, look, man, we traded for James Harden. We didn't trade for a guy who has 11 turnovers in the second half games, who had 6 turnovers one night, who had 5 turnovers another night, and was 0 for 2 in a closeout game 6. Now, I don't know how you verbally say that to him without being, extremely confrontational, but Daryl Morey's got to figure it out because, Morey said at the press conference that he wasn't going to discuss, any contract terms. Well, you're not going to discuss contract terms. I hope part of the contract terms you discuss with James are, James, you realize that guys who make $47 million a year take more than 2 shots in the second half of a game 6. To me, the biggest person to blame last night was James Harden. And in my mind, if you put anyone ahead of him, I don't think you and I saw the same basketball game or saw the same series. James Harden showed you in game 4 that he can score 30 points, that he can be a volume scorer still, that he can get to the basket. Last night, I didn't see that guy at all. And while it's cute and nice that he had, 9 assists last night, it didn't matter. You are in a world where you needed more from James Harden, and he didn't give it to you. Now, you had a guy last year in Ben Simmons who was scared to shoot and couldn't hit free throws. In this postseason, you have a guy who barely shot and doesn't give you defense. So you're going to have to retool the roster around that. The Sixers are going to have to figure out how to retool this roster in a way that allows them to compete when James Harden is not giving you the best game possible. Now, maybe part of that's Tyrese Maxey. The kid is growing. He's amazing. He tries so hard. He works so hard. You heard Doc Rivers say he's trying to get him to take a week off before getting into off-season mode. You got to love that. You know, him and Joel are going to be a great tandem for a while. To me, the only solution to fixing this team next year is trading Tobias Harris. And I used this example earlier, and there's a couple of examples I can use, but I know Tobias Harris, and I've said it myself. He's beloved in the locker room. The players love him. The players admire him. The players think very well of him in so many ways. But I don't know if you can win with him in this. As this team is currently constructed, I don't think that Tobias Harris can be the 4 guy on this team and win you a championship. Because when Tobias and Joel Embiid get up at the press conference and say, we got to be tougher, we got to have more resilience, we got to have more 1-2. Well, one guy played through a broken face and a torn thumb. What's the other guy's excuse? You're telling me Tobias Harris couldn't have thrown a couple elbows? Couldn't have banged a little harder for the rebound? Couldn't have taken the ball a little harder to the basket? Couldn't have put his foot down and maybe, I mean, look at Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was running down your throat most of this series. I mean, wouldn't it have been nice if Tobias Harris would just thrown a body into him without him once and just said, you're not going to get it that easy? He didn't do that. Doesn't have the mentality. I'm not saying Mike Scott would have solved all this team's problems, but look, last night, you might have preferred Mike Scott over Tobias Harris, honestly. You go back to the Bulls. Jordan and Oakley were buds. Oakley was Jordan's bodyguard. But they had to move on from Oakley because they couldn't win without Cartwright. They needed a bona fide center. They didn't need another enforcer at power forward. And Jordan and the Bulls learned and adapted how to win, and they eventually won 3 championships with Cartwright, while Oakley was part of those Knicks teams that never won a championship. They got to win NBA Finals, though. You look at the Lakers before the Shaq and Kobe run. They had to make a difficult decision of moving on from both Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel, 2 guys who were drafted and developed to be part of the Lakers' next dynasty. Well, neither one was in the cards, and the organization said that it was more important for them to lean on Derek Fisher and Rick Fox than Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel. Well, Van Exel went on to have a nice, okay rest of the career. Eddie Jones had some nice playoff runs with Miami Heat, but that was it. Neither one of them won championships, and the Lakers won without either one of them. This organization has to move on from Tobias. I don't want that there's no other option. I'm about solutions. And the only solution I have is to move on from Tobias. Find the team that needs a Tobias Harris type of guy. Atlanta could use a Tobias Harris type of guy. Okay? They need more, guys who are those kind of scorers around Trae Young. Maybe you look at a team like the Bulls and you try to maybe pry somebody away from them because they don't really have, when they traded Markkanen to the Cavs, they didn't really replace that type of player on their team. You look at a team like the Blazers, they need a lot. Let's be reassuring. I mean, let's be not reassuring. Let's be realistic about that. Portland needs a lot of help. Maybe Tobias is a guy who can go there and help them out. I think there's a few ways you can go with it. And I think that, maybe even the Knicks want Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is a New York guy. The point is, at the end of the day, there will be teams who could take on Tobias Harris and his contract. The question is, can you get what you need in return? The prerequisite of getting a certain level of toughness and a guy who can step up if Harden's having a down night, or if Maxey can't hit his threes, or if Embiid is playing through a broken face and a torn thumb. You don't need your third and fourth guy to be a superstar. You need him to be reliable. Now, last night, unlike the Sixers, you saw the Phillies show you they can be reliable. And we're talking more about that next, because Phillies now have won 3 out of the last 4 games on this road trip. And I think it's a big, big boost for them. We'll get into that and more. No Clayton Kershaw again. Joint inflammation. Poor Kershaw. That guy I feel like that guy's injured or has a problem every year now. Good grief. Phillies, Dodgers this weekend, then they return for a 6-game set next week in Philadelphia. Mets, are they the best team in the National League? We'll get into all that more with Steve Buchanan from DraftKings coming up in just a couple of minutes right here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City.
Saturday morning in the locker room with Billy Schwein, we will look at the post-mortem 76ers. What went wrong and get your reaction to the end of the Sixers season. The sportsbook consigliere Dave Sherpan checks in from Vegas with his big plays in the NBA and Major League Baseball action. Former Eagles linebacker Brad Quast joins me in the studio. The NFL released the 2022 schedule, and we will go over the Eagles schedule with a fine-tooth comb. Phillies talking more. It's the locker room with Billy Schwein, Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.
Since the 1960s, the Greater Atlantic City Chamber has honored the most dynamic individuals in our community. The tradition continues May 17th at the Business Excellence Awards at the Resorts Casino Hotel. Join us as we celebrate the accomplishments of businesses, community organizations, and individuals committed to making the Greater Atlantic City area a great place to live, work, and play. Visit acchamber.com or call 609-345-4524 to purchase tickets. The Greater Atlantic City Chamber Business Excellence Awards are proudly supported by Town Square Media.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. Okay, easy now. You're teaching your kid how to parallel park. Ouch! Turns out he likes to do it by feel. Don't worry, eBay Motors has bumpers, taillights, trunk lids, license plate holders, 122 million parts. Pull up just a little bit. And headlights. They've got lots of headlights. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
5G is here, but the big carriers want you to sign a pricey long-term contract to get access. Well, not anymore, because Straight Talk Wireless has rolled out 5G coverage nationwide with deals like our Silver Unlimited plan for just $45 a month and no contract. And get a Samsung Galaxy A32 5G for $249, all on America's best networks. 5G coverage, 5G phones, less money. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
What dealer wants to approve you if you clear $350 per week?
Who is Matt Blatt Kia?
What dealer will pay off your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth?
Who is Matt Blatt Kia?
Correct. Do you have a job and clear $350 per week? At Matt Blatt Kia in Toms River and Egg Harbor Township, you're virtually approved. Plus, we're overloaded with trades. Even one-owner trades, many with factory warranty. And they must go to make room for new Kias arriving daily. Just because you don't see your new Kia on the lot doesn't mean you can't be driving it home tomorrow. So bring any trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. And don't forget, you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Offers with approved credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details. Expires
6/5/2022.
Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. And now on Route 37 in Toms River.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night being brought to you by AC Airport. Plan your summer vacation now. Spirit Airlines is offering nonstop flights from Atlantic City International Airport to Boston, Atlanta, San Juan, Miami, and other exciting destinations. Visit spirit.com today to book your next trip. Josh Hennig hanging out with you. Yeah, the Sixers loss was depressing. Was not depressing. Hey, the Phillies are winning. How about that? I mean, for goodness sake, Rhys Hoskins had 3 games straight there. He hit a home run. And baseball is right around that part of the year where people like me say, look, April, okay, whatever. To me, baseball is real hot and heavy when we get close to Memorial Day weekend, and we're just days away from that. So to get more into the baseball season, Steve Buchanan joins us again from DraftKings here on 97.3 ESPN. Steve, how you doing today?
Pleasure as always. Thanks for inviting me back to the show.
Steve, let's start with those Phillies I just mentioned. You know, a lot of fans in this area, they're like, hey, man, you know, this team spent a lot of money, right? I mean, Nick Castellanos is buying Ben Simmons' old house. You know, he's spending that $100 million already, you know, and people were like, man, how can you keep losing to the Mets? This is disgraceful, right? Then they go on this trip. I mean, they were just mashing the ball all over the place in Seattle. Last night, they blew the lead and they got it back. So, you know, what is the real take on this Phillies team right now?
Well, first and foremost, Seattle's my team. So I didn't appreciate that series. So we'll start there. But after that, boy, did they need that win last night, right? To come back after blowing that game, blowing a massive lead again, but to come back and actually win is huge. And especially against the team that you just did it against, who are, you know, have been the overall favorites to win it all once again. The Dodgers, they're the big favorites in Major League Baseball right now. And then you have to come and then you have to face Walker Buehler tonight, who's been nothing short of phenomenal so far this season. Now, the Dodgers, obviously, you mentioned it before you went to break. Clayton Kershaw's down, so there's one bullet you avoid there. But Walker Buehler is not an easy task either tonight. If they can win this game tonight, it would be so huge for a number of reasons. I mean, this team has just been kind of going on peaks and valleys. We're only in the middle of May, but that's what it feels like so far. But just in this division where you have the time to take advantage of a couple of teams that are struggling, the Braves mostly. If you can kind of start, you know, distancing that huge. So, you know, I hate to be like, oh, it's you need to win this game on May 13th. It's critical. But after coming off that win last night and then to go on and win tonight against the Dodgers, that would just be huge. Like, that would just be a really, really nice way to end this road trip that's coming up.
Yeah, the Phillies got arguably some of their best guys going on the next couple of days. I mean, Gibson has been pretty good for them this year. We know what Ranger Suarez is capable of. You know, when Nola shows up, he's good. You know, when he shows up, you know, that's always the problem with him. To me, it almost feels like they needed to get away, though, right? Like, it almost felt like this road trip has been an opportunity for them to just get out of town, get away from all the people and the stuff in the city, kind of hit the reset button, because all of a sudden the bats are starting to hit again.
Yeah, if you look at their numbers too, like they're averaging just under 4.5 runs per game at home. That's fine, but they're averaging almost 5 per game on the road. That half run is obviously a big difference, because if you take those numbers for them on the road, them averaging 4.8 runs on the road, I think that's the 7th best mark in the league right now. Like, you need to get those road wins, especially when you're not, performing well as you'd like at home. So yes, they definitely needed to get away. On paper, this probably wouldn't have been a road trip that I'm like, oh, perfect, this is a great time to bounce back. I'd be looking at this, and this is not because I'm a Seattle fan. I'd be looking at this and I'd be like, I don't know if this is the road trip or we're going to start figuring things out, but it's worked in their favor. So even better, right? So you're totally right. They needed to get away from home. They needed to go on the road. This wouldn't be the trip that I'd say they're going to get it together, but surprisingly, it has been.
Steve, a lot of conversation in this area as well has been about the manager, Joe Girardi.
Sure.
People look at the game last night like, why is Alvarado in there again? Why'd you keep Norwood in for so long against the Mets last week, right? What do we do with Girardi? I mean, this guy, he won a championship as a player, won a championship as a manager. He's been manager of the year, but it feels like in Philadelphia, he just can't press the buttons. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, but I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't live in the city, but correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like this has been an issue for years now, right? When it comes to this team and who's managing it, it feels like you guys just can't get that guy who can press the right buttons. Would I be correct in saying that?
Well, yeah, like for example, so if you go back to in the aftermath of Charlie Manuel retiring, because people forget that, Charlie wasn't young when he got here. Charlie was up in age when he got to Philadelphia. What was that? 17 years ago now, whatever it was. And the idea is that, okay, well, Charlie's getting older. He doesn't want to do this forever. So then you had Ryan Sandberg, and that just completely imploded. And then the organization, well, we're going to go through a rebuild, right? And then they had Pete Mackinnon, and he was kind of like, we're going to keep the seat warm until we get better, right? And then they brought in the analytics darling Gabe Kapler, and the city hated him for the coconut oil and the weird stuff he says, and then so they got rid of him, and then they brought in, well, this is the baseball guy. He's a baseball man, a lifer. And it's like, ever since Charlie has said, hey guys, I'm a little too old to do this anymore, everybody they brought in afterward is just doesn't work out for one reason or another.
Well, let me ask this too, and this is coming from an outsider's perspective, because like I mentioned, I don't live in Philly. I live in Boston, but I focus on the league a lot. Would you say that the Phillies' early struggles are more to do with the players themselves or with Girardi? Because from an outsider's perspective, I think you could say a lot of slow starts from some of these key players has been the issue. Like Rhys Hoskins starting to kind of finally heat up at the plate. Really putrid start during the month of April. Kyle Schwarber, not somebody you're going to have to hit for average. That is not what you're going to get from Kyle Schwarber. But when you're batting him leadoff and you have that type of player to, set the table, and that's not happening, well, that has a whole trickle-down effect to the rest of the lineup. And then guys like Ranger Suarez, phenomenal last year. I loved watching Ranger Suarez pitch last year. Has not looked the same so far this season. Again, a little bit better as of late, but, for the first few weeks of April, that was not the Ranger Suarez we saw near the end of 2021. So would you say that it's more of Girardi's issue, or would you say it's more of a team effort? Because to me, it felt like the team's performance more than Girardi.
Well, here's the reason why a lot of people are pointing to Girardi. Is because he keeps changing the lineup every single night.
He does.
It feels like it feels like they haven't had a consistent lineup almost at all this year,
Right.
And for goodness sake, I feel like everyone who's not named Bryce Harper has hit leadoff this year.
Right.
So at some point, and again, maybe it's because I'm a little of a get off my lawn, older kind of mentality, but it's like, find your lineup, play the guys. They know their role. Now you have guys. Schwarber's hit 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 5. At some point, it's like, Joe, stop changing the lineup. So that's where I look at it. I'm like, Girardi, for example, you're in Boston. I doubt Cora's changing the lineup every single night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the Yankees the Red Sox. I doubt that Boone is changing the lineup every single night unless he's putting somebody into the lineup. I feel like this changing the lineup every night, like Girardi is trying to play roulette every night. He's trying to hit. He keeps trying to hit black 10 every time with the lineup, and it's like, Joe, stop playing roulette. Go play. I don't know, blackjack or something.
Well, see, and I'm actually glad you brought that up too, because one of the moves that I had liked, and I haven't seen the Phillies lineup tonight, but so I'm hoping he's still there. But Alec Boehm hitting second, I love that. Like, and that should be something that we should be seeing more. Now, obviously, he was in the headlines early in the season for all the wrong reasons. But like, I feel like he is a near top of the order guy, and he was hitting, sixth, he was hitting seventh. I think I even saw him hit eighth at one point. I hope he is okay. He is hitting second tonight, so I do.
Yeah, he's
like that.
The lineup tonight is Schwarber, Boehm, Harper, Castellanos, Romuto, Hoskins, Odubel Herrera, who's also a controversial figure in this city, Camargo, who everybody loves, and then Stott got called back up because Didi's on the injured list.
See, I like that lineup a lot. That makes sense to me. But like when he was hitting Boehm like lower in the lineup, I did not like that at all. This is one of your top prospects. Seattle was doing the same thing. Julio Rodriguez was hitting near the bottom of the lineup. It's like, this guy is faster than half the 3/4 of the league, and you're hitting him sixth and seventh. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm glad that he's sticking with him near the top of the lineup. I would like to get Schwarber out of the top. Is that something that's going around? Because I know he's hitting less than $180, I think, at this point. I mean, he's right around there. But at what point does he come out of the starting the leadoff spot? That's a big thing for me.
Well, here's the weird thing. So last night the leadoff hitter was Hoskins, and it's like, wait a minute. Hoskins just had 3 monster games in Seattle, hitting in the middle of the lineup. Now you stick him at the top of the lineup against the Dodgers. Like, to me, the guy should be they don't have a natural leadoff hitter, so I understand why they keep leaning on Schwarber, because he works the count kind of guy. But like, just put Segura there. Like, Segura makes contact. I would put him. Heck, you know what I would actually probably do? I'd probably put Schwarber in the 9 hole. Let Schwarber knock the lineup over every time. But I'm sure there's some analytics guy who works for the Phillies who's probably giving the middle finger to the radio right now, telling me that I'm an idiot. So,
hey, you know what? That means you've made it, though, right? If someone's getting angry at you, then that means you've made it. So
everybody gets angry with me every day, Steve. Every day I got somebody telling me something. It's always a good time on Twitter, man.
Now, see, I missed Hoskins leading up. That is insane to me. That was
last night. Yeah.
I didn't even realize that he was batting leadoff last night. I don't like that at all. See, here's what I will say. Like, the days of, working a count and getting on base via a walk, like, that is not a thing. That is not a thing anymore. Like, I don't care if that same analytic guy who's giving you the finger, I don't care if he's doing that to me too. Because let me tell you something, in this day and age where guys are consistently throwing over 100 miles an hour plus, okay, guys aren't on there and they're like, oh, I'm going to try to work a walk, just like stolen bases. It's a dying art at this point. You're trying to make contact. You're trying to hit it out of the park, right? So a guy working a walk like Rhys Hoskins at the top, please spare me. I don't want to see that again. And I'm not even, heavily invested as all your listeners are. I'm just a fan of the league. Don't show me Hoskins at the top again.
Steve Buchanan from DraftKings joining us right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at SBuchanan24 on Twitter for all of his DraftKings MLB analysis. By the way, you mentioned the stolen base. Did you hear what Jeff Passan said about that? So apparently, the new minor league rules they're tweaking. They're going to eventually totally bring to the major leagues. One of them is they're cutting down on pickoff moves. Like, you're not allowed to do extra. I think it's only like 2 per inning, basically.
Sure.
So according to Passan, now everyone in the minor leagues is just stealing bases with reckless abandon because they know the guy can't throw over. So it's almost like how soon can we get that rule at this level? Like, we need more guys stealing bases. I mean, Mike Trout is one of the best athletes on planet Earth, and he's just standing at second base, twiddling his thumbs.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And there's going to be a lot of, people that are going to say that that's not right either. You're taking away from the game. But just to put this into perspective, right? Again, and we're back to the Mariners, but Julio Rodriguez is leading the league in stolen bases with 10. 10. We are a month and a half into the season and we have one guy in double digits. There's only 2 guys after him that are even close. Jorge Mateo with 9, Kyle Tucker with 8, and then we got a bunch of 7s and 6s, and it's a dying art. But it's so pivotal too, and that's where it's like, that's where it doesn't matter to me if the leadoff guy's trying to work a walk. Well, he's not going to steal. So then what's the point? So now you just have a guy on base. Like the whole point before was, like Jacoby Ellsbury with the Boston Red Sox, get on base, immediately swipe a bag. Now you got a guy in scoring position. Now the table is set for your big bats to knock these guys in. But if these guys are getting on base, they're not stealing a bag, or they're not, what's okay. Now you're just setting up a double play for some of these power guys who are either going to knock it out of the park or they're going to ground one of the shortstop, and then they're wipes that out. So
I mean, you're in Boston. One of the greatest moments in Boston history was Robert stealing second base so they could be in a position to win that game. Like in today's game, Roberts ain't stealing the base.
Right. No doubt. Yeah, absolutely not. Because it's, it's the analytics say no. Don't do that. Don't do that. The analytics say no. But yeah, so I like that. I that you were able to confirm that for me, but I'm all for it. Let's see it. Let these guys run.
Couple more things I want to ask you about. We do also have Mets fans in our area. What do we do with the Mets? Because they're 22-11, so they're playing really good. They've beaten up on the Phillies, though. They've beaten up on the NL East for half the year. So, are the Mets a team that's just better than the rest of the division, or are they actually one of the best teams in the National League?
Here's the thing about the National League, and this is what the surprising thing is. And I'm going to go over to the National League West. And that's where the Dodgers are, obviously. That division was supposed to be for the Dodgers to take, and we just move on. Every single team in that division is above 500. Nobody had that on their bingo card on May 13th, that all of these teams are going to be over 500.
Right.
But this is what complicates things now. Is that the National League was supposed to be just for the Dodgers, and then you got your wild card teams or whatever. Now we have a division that's apparently so loaded that this has a trickle down effect, because now we have teams like the Braves who aren't performing well, who I think that's going to turn around eventually. The NL Central is the Brewers, and then that's it. Don't even worry about the rest of it. The Cardinals are in there in the mix too, but forget about the rest of the teams. And now a National League West that is all performing well at the same time. We have 3 legitimate teams in that division with the Dodgers, Padres, and Giants, all teams that could realistically come out of that division. So while the Mets have gotten off to a really hot start, and I truly believe they are a very good team, they're going to start to see a little bit more stiffer competition as this month goes on, particularly. You look at their next few games, they got the starting with the Mariners. I keep bringing them up. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, but they got the Mariners, Cardinals, the Rockies, who are playing well, and that's in Coors Field, the Giants in San Francisco, and then the Phillies again. That's a pretty tough stretch for a team that's really kind of had a cupcake schedule in the month of April. So I'm not saying that the Mets are going to come crashing down to earth, because the amount of talent that they have, even with Jacob deGrom out, is massive. But I think it also kind of goes to, they've had a really easy schedule to go on to begin the season. It's going to get a lot tougher in the month, for the rest of the month of May, and then even leading into June. They're playing a lot of the NL West in the month of June. They're playing the Angels, who have been playing out of their minds, one of the best offenses in the league. They're playing the Brewers. So there's a lot of tough teams coming up. So enjoy this while you can. I'm not saying you have a bad team. I'm not saying you're going to go out of under 500, but there is going to be, I think, some regression coming, because the competition's getting a lot tougher coming up.
We know the Mets are all in. I mean, their owner is
no
borderline nuts. Cohen's calling the mayor's office, telling him to get rid of the vax mandate because I gave you $2.5 million in your campaign. He's in on social media tweeting at fans. So, they're going to be active at the deadline. Yeah. If there's one thing that you're telling Mets fan to watch out for when they get to the deadline, it's what?
Man, because I feel like everybody needs bullpen help. Like, the bullpens are just atrocious at this point. I don't know if that's the most glaring need for the Mets, though. I think it really comes down to what they're going to end up getting out of Jacob deGrom or not. Because the biggest thing was, you have that 1-2 punch in the playoffs of deGrom and Scherzer. Can you still get that? Yeah, there's a good chance. And let's not forget about Bassett either. Bassett's been phenomenal coming over from Oakland. I think the starters market is going to be red hot during the trade deadline, but you mentioned it. When you have the crazy owner in the background on the cell phone making the calls, when he's yelling at government officials to do what's right in his mind, he's got to go out there and do and overpay. Because look, that organization is not shy to overpay for guys. We've seen it many times before. I think they are one starter away from going to elite. And that's even without talking about DeGrom. They get DeGrom in the mix too with one more starter, then you're really talking there. So there could be some shocking teams who are sellers come trade deadline if they continue down the path that they are.
Don't forget about Taylor McGill. I mean, that guy is amazing against the NL East.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I still think that they can afford to get a starter. I would not be perturbed about that if they're not going to get DeGrom back. But I think I don't really think they have a quote unquote need right now. But I think bullpen is one, and then you can always add to that starting rotation.
Steve Buchanan from DraftKings joining us right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Steve, a couple of American League questions before I let you go. Are the Angels the most fun team to watch in baseball right now?
Man, nobody wanted to give them a shake coming into the year, right? Because they always do this. They have a great offseason, like, okay, maybe this is it. And then, come June, it's like, well, let's see who they're going to trade off at the deadline. Not that way anymore, at least so far. You got Trout healthy, Ohtani healthy. You got some of these younger kids like Taylor Ward, Jared Walsh coming up, really hitting for power. And then they're just what they were able to get, what they have been able to get out of like Noah Syndergaard so far has been phenomenal. They are such a fun team, but they're also in a tough division. They got to overcome the Astros, right? They're in a American League that has a lot of good teams right now. Like we could see 3 teams come out of the AL East for come playoff times if the Yankees, Rays, and Blue Jays all play to their potential. That's the only problem. They're in the toughest league in the league, in my opinion, in the American League, because there's so many good teams coming out of that. Whereas the National League's got a couple, could maybe have 2 teams come out of there. But the Angels are so much fun right now. And from a betting perspective, I'm not saying they're going to win it all, but they're 25-1 right now with the way that they're playing. That is crazy. That is crazy, right? Like that's one of those, I'm going to put a little sprinkle on that and see if it comes through. 25-1. They keep playing like this. You will never see 25-1 again. Love that team. Love what they've done. I just hope that they can actually go through with it the entire year.
I'm glad you mentioned Syndergaard as well, because they talked about MLB Network this morning. I mean, you have a team that's top 5 in baseball, not their division, not the league. They're top 5 in ERA, batting average against, and whip. I mean, I would have never thought they'd be that good at this point in the year.
No, look, I mean, we definitely thought that they were going to make improvements because they did build a roster that's to do so, but not like this. Like not at the rate that they're winning, and not just like winning with these 1-run games, like winning like handedly. Mm-hmm. It's been incredible. And it's, as a fan of baseball overall, I love watching things like this. I love seeing things like this. I love seeing teams who've been in these droughts for so long kind of come out of that and start playing well and making noise. And then, obviously you have the face of baseball and Shohei Ohtani on their team too. That doesn't hurt.
You mentioned face of baseball. I'll get to my last question for you, because a guy who I'm a big fan of is Vlad Jr. I love watching this guy play. They got my favorite third baseman from the A's in baseball, Matt Chapman. But is the Blue Jays kryptonite at this point, is it just the pitching? Is that like the only thing that's really holding them back, you think?
I'm going to tell you something right now. The Blue Jays came into this season with the second highest win total behind the Dodgers. I think their over-under ended up closing at 93.5. That Blue Jays team is surprisingly very thin. And what I mean by that is I was watching one of their games a few weeks ago. They had the bases loaded. They were about to turn over to the top of the lineup. And on base was Raimel Tapia, Bradley Zimmer, and Reese McGuire. And I said, this is the Blue Jays team that we're all excited about? I mean, granted, they're all on base, so they did their job. But when you think of the Blue Jays, right, you're thinking like Yankees style offense. And those are all the guys on base. Now, they already lost Teoscar Hernandez. That's who it was. They already lost Teoscar Hernandez. And already dramatically, that lineup looks so much different. So to me, it's like, yes, they've been having some issues with the pitching, but they're like one significant injury away from being a very beatable team. And it's crazy to say because of all the hype that they were coming into this season, but that team is beatable. And I don't think a lot of people have caught on to that yet. But when you like look at their game logs, they're scoring 3 to 4 runs per game. They're not doing anything crazy. So here's my hot take as of right now. The Blue Jays might miss the playoffs. That's kind of where I'm at right now. There is that potential. Maybe people are flipping me off right now too, and that's okay because I'm on air to make this opinion and you can say your opinion in your car. But that's just kind of how I feel right now, that all this hype, they're a great team. Don't get me wrong. Maybe they were just a little bit too overhyped.
Yeah, well, maybe they can call the Red Sox and steal some of their players at the deadline.
Oh, boy. Yep, that's a big possibility. Yep, they might lose 100 games at this rate.
Steve, before I let you go, thoughts on Gabe Kapler's opinion about mustaches and beards?
Want to know a funny story? When I started out in radio a long time ago, my first big radio interview was with Gabe Kapler.
Okay.
So I have a soft spot in my heart for Gabe Kapler because he gave me the time of day when nobody would. So I have a soft spot for him there. With that said, really weird opinion. That's just, I'll keep it at that. I am not going to say anything else about that man.
So my favorite part of that whole back and forth they had was every time he made the comment, the woman in the back kept saying, no, nope, no. And I'm just sitting there like, I want to know who the woman is. Like, I don't even care what Gabe's saying at that point. Like, they should have turned the camera around to be like, who is the lady who is so vehemently disagreeing about Kapler's opinion of mustache? Yep. If you have a beard, you have a mustache. Like, it was just so funny because, like, you could audibly hear her in the background just being like, nope.
Yeah.
No.
I'm sure she's a lot of fun just by that reaction. Yep.
He's Steve Buchanan from DraftKings. You can follow him on Twitter at SBuchanan24 for all of his baseball coverage. You also catch him over there on MLB Network. And he joined us right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Steve, I wore another WWE shirt for you. I got the Roman Reigns fight leukemia shirt going. So
I got a little AEW going on tonight.
Nice. Yeah, I saw you got a little attention from Jericho and his people over there.
Yeah, Jericho actually threw me a follow today too. That was very nice of him.
Now, see, that's a win. See, it doesn't matter what you do with your bets the rest of the weekend. You could go 0 for 10 this weekend, but Chris Jericho is following you. That's a win in your column, buddy.
Yeah, I popped for that. I got to admit, I popped for that. Yep.
Steve, have a good one, man.
All right, you too, Josh. Thanks again.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We'll check out the text board on the other side, 609-403-0973. Also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank and CLC. Don't forget, Celtics Bucks tonight on 97.3 ESPN FM. And tomorrow, Dodgers Cardinals. All part of the busy weekend of sports here on 97.3 ESPN FM.
Major League Baseball, this weekend on ESPN Radio.
Good! Paul Goldschmidt goes yard, deep to left field.
It's a National League showdown at Busch Stadium when Paul Goldschmidt and the St. Louis Cardinals welcome Jock Peterson and the San Francisco Giants.
Wow! He crushed it. Jock Peterson over the right field wall.
Coverage begins tomorrow at 1:30 Eastern.
Listen to Major League Baseball on 97.3 ESPN.
What dealer wants to approve you if you clear $350 per week?
Who is Matt Blatt Kia?
What dealer will pay off your trade even if you owe thousands more than it's worth?
Who is Matt Blatt Kia?
Correct. Do you have a job and clear $350 per week? At Matt Blatt Kia in Toms River and Egg Harbor Township, you're virtually approved. Plus, we're overloaded with trades. Even one-owner trades, many with factory warranty. And they must go to make room for new Kias arriving daily. Just because you don't see your new Kia on the lot doesn't mean you can't be driving it home tomorrow. So bring any trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. And don't forget, you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Offers with approved credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. Go to mattblackkianj.com for complete details. Expires
6/5/2022.
Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Tom's River.
You forgot Mother's Day. Don't worry, it's not too late. DoorDash has the gifts mom wants. Order a flower delivery or sweet treats for any mom in your life. With dozens of local shops and national favorites, there are plenty of options for you to choose. Download the app or visit DoorDash.com and use promo code ORDER22 for 50% off your first order of $15 or more, up to a $12 value. That's promo code ORDER22 for 50% off your first order, up to a $12 value. Limited time offer.
East Coast Roofing and Siding, protecting what you love and own. East Coast Roofing and Siding, trust us with your family and home.
Hey there, South Jersey. This is Sean Steitler with East Coast Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Do you have a home project you've been pushing off? Does your house need a facelift? If so, you need to take advantage of our Economic Relief Rebate Program. For a limited time, we are offering no money down, no interest, and no payments for 12 months. Plus, when the job is complete, we will send you a rebate check for up to 15% of the cost. No payments until 2023 and money back in your pocket? You can't beat this deal. Call us today to schedule your free consultation. 609-625-1900. That's 609-625-1900. You can also visit our website at eastcoastroofing.com for more.
East Coast Roofing and Siding, trust us with your family and home.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
All right, wrapping up the show here on 97.3 ESPN. Oh, it's Giants and the Cardinals tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN. The Phillies are playing the Dodgers tonight. Cardinals are playing the Giants this weekend. See, that's a mistake, trusting labels. You see something on the screen, it's labeled one way, trust it. And then you think, wait a minute, I thought the Phillies were playing the Dodgers, and you hear the promo and you realize that it's the Giants. Jack Peters don't play for the Dodgers anymore. Bad job on me. But tomorrow, Giants and Dodgers here on 97.3 ESPN. NBA playoffs Sunday. There's at least one game 7 that's going on. And I'm at 2, but there's at least one. So, but you can hear it right here on 97.3. How about the Mavs and the Suns going 7 games? I mean, you were kind of hoping they would just because, you know, who's involved, but I didn't expect it after the first couple games of the series. I thought it was going to go a different direction. That's for sure. And of course, Billy Schwein in the locker room, 10 a.m. the noon, Saturday, Sunday, 97.3 ESPN as well. So we got you covered all weekend. Over on the text board at 609-403-0973. Tom in Margate says, Josh, you are on point. Phillies are doing good. Sixers, my plan A would actually be to keep the buys and get 3 good, solid bench guys who can score and a real backup center. Plan B would be your Tobias Harris for a good 3-4 guy. Happy TJ Friday salute. That's from Tom in Margate. Tom, appreciate you chiming in. The problem with getting a bunch of good bench guys is the fact that there's no guarantee that those guys will be available in free agency. You know, like Gary Harris is available in free agency. I don't know if Gary Harris solves a lot of your problems. Patty Mills is available in free agency. You know, does he want to take, the minimum veteran exception, backup center? Well, can you get Andre Drummond to come back here? Maybe, there's, there's ways they can go with it. I don't know if that, I like where you're thinking, Tom and Margate. I just don't know if it's possible. I just don't know that if it's going to make sense for them to hope they can get the guys in free agency. Because like I said, it's not like the free agent market is full of a bunch of guys that get you real excited. Like, sure, if the Sixers walked out of free agency with Patty Mills and Gary Harris, I think you're probably happy, but I don't think you're like, this is great. You know what I mean? Yeah, Tom, I just don't know. I don't know if they can get anybody that's not, the free agency. I just don't know. I just feel it's more likely for to trade Tobias at this point. Again, I don't want to trade Tobias. I'm not anti Tobias Harris. I just don't think that there's another way. If there was another way, I'd be all for it. But maybe Tom and Margay, maybe you have more hope than I do, and maybe your optimism will bleed over to the rest of us who are pessimistic right now. Over on the text board at 609-403-0973 says, Maxey threw a tantrum after talking to Harden on the bench. Harden might be a cancer. Yeah, there's that famous video also of Harden trying to talk to Maxey and Maxey just trying to get away from him. I'm not going to sit here and call Harden a cancer. Harden has never been known as a bad locker room guy. It's never been, the guy's been around the league for over a decade now. He doesn't have that reputation. Guys like people believe that a guy like Russell Westbrook is a problem in locker rooms. People believe that, Carmelo Anthony was a problem in locker rooms. People believe that there are a lot of guys over the years who have reputations, as being guys that other players just don't want to deal with, don't get along with, right? Harden's never been known as that guy. So, I tend to believe that, maybe it's just Maxey and Harden just not being on the same page and Maxey just not wanting to deal with it. We've all had people that we like and we get along with that in the heat of the moment, we just really don't like them in that moment. We've all worked with people that just drive us nuts in the moment, but we'll go out and hang out with them later that weekend. So, all right, I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Bucks Celtics next, and I'll be producing Billy Schweim's Locker Room tomorrow at 10 a.m. Have a great night, everybody.
Countdown, we already have one Game 7. It will be Sunday with Dallas pushing the Suns to the limit. How many more Game 7s will there be? 1, 2, or none in San Francisco. The Warriors look to bounce back from embarrassment. They host Memphis up 3-2. We're in